Okay, lesson 3.2, energy, producers and consumers. Before we start, let's put it in context. Every organism, every interaction with the environment, everything they do, everything to power the life processes needs this thing called energy. Okay, life processes, think back, movement, response to the environment, all those, reproduction, okay, those life processes that we learned about in the beginning. Those all require energy to complete. To do what it needs to be living, you need to have energy. But where does it come from? Okay, and then how, when it's there, does it go from one organism to another? To start this investigation, we've got to look at first this keyword primary producers, and then after that, consumers. Okay, these might be some words that you already know. Produce, let's look at the root there. Okay, producers, produce usually means to make something. Okay, and then consume usually means to take in. So right away, without even knowing the science, I've got an idea and I can kind of remember. Produce, maybe they're making something. And then consumers, maybe they're those that are taking it in. A little more context here for you on this slide. Just, again, what we were saying before. The organisms that need that energy for these life processes. Okay? All right, all the metabolic, everything that we need to do. All right? This is very important. No organism can create energy. Energy cannot be created. There's a theme to that with sciences, but basically you cannot make energy. We can use it, we can get it from sources, we can even convert it to different types of energy, but we cannot make it. For almost all life, sunlight is the most important thing for us. It all starts with the sunlight. Okay, the Earth is a special planet, proper distance away from the sun, all times that it rotates around the sun or revolves around the sun, that it doesn't make us too hot or too cold, and we get enough of those sunlight energy rays to be used as energy. Okay? Then we're going to come to this one little exception where sunlight doesn't exist. There's actually places in this world where there is no sunlight, or there is such a low amount of sunlight that is negligible, and we're going to talk about how living things exist there using a different process with chemical energy. To define, your producers are your autotrophs. Okay, that's autotrophs. Auto, doing it themselves. Okay, these are your plants, your algae, and even some bacteria. They take energy from the sunlight, and then this is big. They take it and they convert it. They don't make it, but they convert it to where we can use it. All cells can use it. Okay. So if we're saying producers, we're also saying autotrophs. Autotrophs are also primary producers. Primary first. It's an easy way to remember that that is where the energy conversion starts, the primary producers. Oh, and even though I said produce means to make, and then we came back and said nothing's being made, it's a good way to remember it. What they're making is usable energy. For living things. It's very important. They're taking the energy from the sun and converting it so it's usable. Okay? The other nice thing about producers is this storage ability. They are also living things, and living things that take in energy need to be able to store it and hold on to it. And so when producers are storing energy, other organisms are able to eat them, and then that is where the energy flow starts. You're either a producer that converts energy, or this other thing that eats producers, and we're going to come back to that one later. An example for you down here. Okay, plants that take energy from the sunlight and then turn into nutrients that can be eaten and taken in for animals. Okay? Think of the caterpillar on the leaf. Have you ever seen a caterpillar on the leaf? That leaf slowly starts to disappear. Well, that leaf's going into that caterpillar, and that caterpillar is taking that leaf and turning it into energy for itself. Okay? Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Remember this word, one of the most important words that you want. Photosynthesis means to make from light. And again, we're not really making, but what we are doing is we are converting. Okay? So in photosynthesis, here is what you want to remember. And we will come back to this in more depth later on. But you're looking at carbon dioxide, water, and light energy. And then in our producers, some special stuff that we'll come back to later when we talk about cells, but you've got chloroplast and chlorophyll, happens photosynthesis in the producers, and the producers take in the carbon dioxide, water, and light, and they turn it and give off carbohydrates and oxygen. I kind of like this because this is technically producer's waste, in a sense. Now the producers also need to turn and use this carbohydrates, so they also use it for energy. But you can think about that. That's what they're giving off to help you remember that all living things take in energy and also produce waste. Okay? Producers can be most commonly plants, but you also see bacteria with photosynthetic properties. Okay? So, not just plants, but mainly. Here we go. We have found places in this world where light doesn't get to, and it throws off the whole idea of, wait, I thought light was the start of the energy. Okay? And there's actually another process that scientists have discovered, which is called chemosynthesis. And remember, synthesis is to make, and then chemo, what's that kind of sound like? We've seen another course like that. Maybe that is chemical. Okay, and exactly what it is. In chemosynthesis, chemical energy, carbon dioxide, and then hydrogen sulfide, and then also oxygen all come together, and you get carbohydrates and then sulfur. That's the stuff that smells like eggs. And that's a lot of times, if you ever get towards volcanoes or hot springs, kind of smells like eggs, and that's why, because that sulfur is being produced. Okay? If you notice in both of them, the carbohydrates is the main thing being made, and remember, carbohydrates, main source of energy because of the carbon-to-carbon bonds. Okay? And that is one of our macromolecules. See what we learned before coming back to us? Okay? Alright, so what are primary producers? Why don't you flip back to your lesson keys real quickly and jot down what do you think primary producers are. Jot that down really quickly, press pause, and then come back and see what I say. Okay, hopefully you jotted down a little bit what you thought it was. If not, do it. Primary producers, what I know they are, okay, I saw some key words of autotrophs, okay, and then I also know that they are plants, and then some bacteria, and if I look back at my notes, I even saw a word of cyanobacteria. So that's some titles, but what do? Autotrophs. They are automakers, auto-eaters. They turn light, energy into carbohydrates, and this is, I'll put this is photo, Okay? Or they turn chemical energy, excuse me, into carbohydrates. And this is chemo. Now, we both know that's not the whole story, as our notes just told us, but these are the main points, okay? They're not just making carbohydrates, they're also making other byproducts. Photosynthesis makes oxygen, that's what we get to breathe. Chemosynthesis makes the sulfur products, the egg smell and stuff. So, not the whole story here, but good for us to jot notes. Hope if you want to go back, you can add more in your own notes. Okay, and this key's in the way, I apologize for this, but this says how. How do consumers obtain energy and nutrients? Well, we got a sciencey word in here that we think we know. Consumers, they take in, but let's go ahead and define that one first. Okay? Consumers, they must acquire, which means get. They must get energy from other organisms by ingesting. There's another big word that just basically means eat for most part, or take in. Okay? They are known as heterotrophs. They have to eat or take in to get energy. Okay? Now, consumers, there's a whole bunch of different types of consumers, but this is the one unifying factor, that all consumers have to take in energy. The producers are the ones that convert it, and the consumers are the ones that take it in. This page here, keep it, mark it up, but this runs you down every type of consumers. Carnivores, they're our meat. They have to eat other animals. Scavengers, okay, they eat, this word, carcasses, dead stuff sometimes. You know, kind of like the roadkill, stuff lying on the side of the road. Scavengers are usually very well suited and found in places like the deserts, where there's not a lot of ready food, but when something dies, it's there for a while and they can swoop down and take care of it. Okay? A lot of times predators will kill something and then leave the rest because they don't want to overconsume, and then the scavengers will swoop in later and they'll kind of pick up. The nice part for scavengers is they don't spend much energy. Okay? Carnivores, they have to kill. It takes a lot of energy to make that happen. Our decomposers, here's your bacteria and your fungi. A lot of people sometimes mistake fungi for plants, okay, kind of like your mushrooms. That's an example of fungi, okay? But they're not actually plants. They feed by breaking stuff down. That's why you'll see a lot of mushrooms and other bacteria grow on dead, rotting logs, rotting leaves. That's when the leaves fall and they're on the ground. When the winter's going on, there's that bacteria that's breaking them down and causing them to go back into the earth or become this detritus material. Okay? So that's how when living things die, they seem to slowly disappear back into the earth, because the decomposers are actually breaking them down for energy. Back to consumers of more animal type, we've got herbivores and omnivores. Okay? Herbivores, those are your plant eaters, okay? They eat plants, okay? Your omnivores, they're both. They eat what they can get, okay? A lot of humans are omnivores. They'll eat meat and they'll eat plants. They eat what they can get, okay? And then detritivores, say it with me, detritivores, all right? Giant earthworms, they're the ones, when the decomposers die, they help break them down, all right? Or when the decomposers do their job of breaking down the dead plant stuff, the detritivores help work that through and turn it into usable nutrients back into the soil. Remember last unit, or last 3.1, we talked about why is soil either biotic or abiotic. I'm going to mark this here. And so this helps us say soil can be biotic. I'm going to write parts just so we remember that soil also has abiotic parts. But that helps us remember that soil has biotic parts from our decomposers and our detritivores. Okay. And back to our general theme of always changing to maintain the homeostatic. Sorry about that. My brain does that. Changing to maintain the homeostatic relationship of all biology. We have these set up, but as biotic and abiotic factors put pressures on different things in the world, there might be changes in the categories, or when necessity hits, I'm pretty sure a herbivore would prefer to give up its ability to just eat plants if it needs to survive. Now, it doesn't always happen, but when major changes happen or stresses, external stresses are put onto an environment, these categories might become blurred based on how hardy stuff is to survive. And then lastly, more changes, okay? Carnivores, here's an example. If there's no food out for them to kill and they need some food, they might become scavengers. They might just go ahead and take the chance, all right? Again, the most important thing for living things is to stay living, and that's where their nature kicks in. So back to our lesson keys. Flip on back. Okay, we've got the primary producers hit. How do consumers obtain energy and nutrients? Do me a favor one more time. Press pause. Fill yours in. See what you can do for the next couple minutes on your own. Okay. Hopefully you've got yours filled in a little bit. Now, consumers obtain energy. We've got a whole bunch of notes here. All right, and essentially you want to list first the basic. How do they obtain energy? They either eat it or take it in. And I'm thinking through breaking down biotic material. So the producers, they convert the energy into usable energy. The producers make carbohydrates. The producers also store energy within them. And then the consumers have to come around and they have to either eat producers or they have to take it in by breaking it down. We also have another level that we didn't really see, which was the primary consumers, and those are your herbivores and omnivores. Those are the ones that take in the plants, and they really start the energy flow into the animal world. Okay? Also here, you might want to list different types of consumers. That's important to know, not only because you want to be able to use them in conversation and answers, but it's also important to know as next chapter we're going to start going to connecting the interdependence in the food webs. And it's important to know where each organism lies in the food web based on its role that it has. So go ahead back, make sure you look at the types of consumers and are able to write down and remember what's a carnivore versus a herbivore versus an omnivore versus a scavenger. Okay, thank you.